Kingdom. Let's get it going, guys. We got that right there. Chiefs win Week 3 preseason. Finish it out 2-1 for this preseason this year. So hey, I'll take it, man. That's awesome. I'm glad that the Chiefs went out today and did exactly what I expected. I told you guys earlier on the pre-show. Tanner and I talked about this. We said we want to see the running game come alive today. Both Isaiah Pacheco and Ronald Jones averaged over 5 yards per carry. Tanner, what's up, man? How you feeling about that?
I'm good. It was nice to see a part of a run game come alive. Ronald Jones was running hard too, which is nice to see as well. So between him and Isaiah, it was great to see that happen.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. Because before this game, we were averaging just over 1 yard per carry as a team. And then here we go today. We get out there, and Ronald Jones looked kind of like the Ronald Jones that I remember him being in Tampa Bay sometimes. And then, of course, Pacheco goes out there, finally finds his first glimpses of glory, I would say, finding a couple of runs that went for, 12 or 11 yards. So it kind of at least gives us some kind of hope to say, like, hey, okay, now we know what we're capable of. We know what we can get out of these guys. So that way, as the season progresses, as we know, Andy Reid likes to do a running back by committee approach most of the time, then we know these guys can plug in and go. So that makes me feel a lot more comfortable about the way we saw things play out today. And yes, it's just preseason, guys. I know we're not going to get overly excited, but considering what we went through the first two games, I'll definitely take this as something to latch on to. So what are your thoughts about the game, Tanner?
I was very surprised to see a lot of those third string guys, essentially second and third string guys, play deep into the fourth quarter. I was actually thought we'd see more Tayon Fleet Davis than we did. And Isaiah was out there the whole way. Buddha was out there the whole way. There was many guys out there that I did not expect to see out there the entire time. But how about a big shout out to Matt Bushman putting some heat on Andy Reid to keep a fourth tight end, even though he went out with an injury. But he had 2 touchdowns, great route runnings today. Matt, I didn't really pay attention to his blocking, but maybe that's a guy that could help us in the blocking scheme too, in case Jordy or Noah or Travis goes down. So shout out to Matt Bushman today showing up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Chiefs got to think about something here because we don't know how long Blake Bell's going to be out for. So, I mean, if it's something serious, then he's probably going to end up having to be put on IR. So, hey, at that point, Bushman hopefully can step in and make a name for himself here. Game was a snooze fest, according to the Bodkins. Yeah, hey, I will say this. Out of the 3 preseason games we've seen for the Chiefs now, this was my favorite one, as a matter of fact, because I felt like we actually saw some things that stood out, whereas the other 2 games, it felt like it was just kind of going through the motions of things, and I'm sure our guy Bodkins there felt that way about the Packers today.
Yeah, it was more of seeing what everybody is around. My guy Shane came out and performed today. 2 touchdowns, 166 yards, 9.8 average, 11 for 17. He's putting heat on Andy Reid as well, keeping the third quarterback around. So I know last year, what was it, like week 13, week 12, they put pressure on other teams, put pressure on Andy, having to bring him up from the practice squad. So I'm thinking he put more pressure on this year with a solid preseason overall to really have to keep him on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, he did a pretty good job. Now, he did sneak a few passes in there, here and there, towards the end of the game. We saw one of those touchdowns could have easily been intercepted if we had a better corner there playing on that route. But otherwise, hey, for a third-string quarterback, I like what he provides to the team. And if for some reason Chad Henne falls off a cliff, then I guess that's going to be our guy. Is going to be our guy Shane. So obviously, assuming Mahomes was not playing for any reason. So. Otherwise, though, Tanner, so I talked about Joshua Williams earlier for the pre-show, and he was targeted quite a bit today. He probably didn't have the most productive day we could have expected. He had 1 interception in his hands that he dropped. Also got called for running into the kicker penalty. You could see he was frustrated with himself in a lot of ways. But looking at the 2 rookie corners that have stood out the most, obviously, between Jalen Watson and Williams, both of these guys at least come down and hit. So at least I got to give him credit for that, is that I see him around the ball. I see him hitting. They're not playing scared. They're not over there, worried about
making business decisions.
Business decisions, as Marcus Peters would call them. The guy that thinks he's Deion Sanders. So honestly, I think Jalen Watson has probably stood out more to me than Joshua Williams even has so far in this preseason. So he's really coming on and kind of just fitting in really nicely. I think that this is a really solid cornerback group, and DiCaprio Boodle is probably going to be the odd man out in my opinion, looking at the grouping, because I think that Chris Lamons is still probably going to be the guy that they take over Boodle. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Lamons had that almost great tackle to start the game on the kickoff. Just missed the guy, just got out of his hands, but he was in the backfield right there. Lamont, I think, is almost should be a shoe in for special teams guy. Joshua Williams, though, had 6 total tackles and 5 solos today. So that's really nice to see that he is hitting, and that's probably going to save his spot on the roster. He's gonna be a big special teams guy and a guy that could easily step into phase of filling in at corner in case something happens to one of the other guys. But yeah, I'd say probably Boodle is looking on the outside end once again on this team. There's just too much talent, too many young guys that we ended up getting, and they're just better. They're just better, unfortunately, players, but maybe better for this team than Boodle is.
Yeah, and kind of watching how things are playing out now along the defense. We saw Danny Shelton come in there in the fourth quarter and just be involved in a few plays. But honestly, when I think about this D line now, and I'm pretty happy with what we have at the moment with Kalen Saunders and Derek Nottie, obviously Chris Jones in there, and then Tershawn Wharton. I don't really actually know if Danny Shelton has a place on this team at this point. Like, what is he going to provide? I suppose maybe in goal line situations you want him as a big body to plug in there. But otherwise, I don't know that he's going to be – I think I could see him being a guy who doesn't make this roster, as a matter of fact.
Wow, that'd be really shocking to bring him in this late in preseason, training camp and preseason to end up not making it.
Right, man. I think Veach does this all the time, though, as far as kicking the tires on guys, seeing what they got left, seeing okay, why did this guy get released from this team, or why is this guy not on a team? Let's get a hold of him, see how he's doing with the rest of the team, and getting familiar with Spagnuolo's defense and stuff like that, and then see if it works out, even if it's only going to be for a couple weeks or 3 weeks at the most. Just see how he adapts to the rest of the system, and if you can make a splash play here and there to really stand out. But I don't know. I think that right now we have a lot of other hungry defensive tackles on this team and young guys, and Kalen Saunders is probably one of them that I think that this could be a huge step up year for him when he's in that rotation. I just don't know that I see as Shelton being a guy that could be used or being really worth a roster spot at this point.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about Saunders in the pregame show of being a guy that he when he's on the field, he looks really well. He looks really good. Like, he can get to the quarterback. He can chase after guys. We saw it all last year when he was in. We've seen it the year before. But the issue for him is, can he stay healthy enough to stay on the field to help run, doing the depth, run in and out. Like, here we go. Time to get maybe 30% snaps, 40% snaps of relief, but he can't stay, he hasn't been able to stay healthy the entire year. So effective, but once again, only effective when he's on the field, obviously not sitting on the bench. So let's do this, Mike, here for post game. All right. So we got cuts coming up, the big roster cuts finally coming into play. Was it next week? I think
we're at Tuesday by 3 p.m. Central Time.
So I'm gonna run down some situations on guys that are borderline, and I want your thoughts here. I'm gonna share my screen, but you don't have to read it. You're on your phone, so.
That's right. I can't even see the screen, so go ahead.
All right. Boosting up for the home squad. All right. So obviously we know starters of Scantling, Hardman, Schuster, and Sky Moore for sure. Justin Watson, we think, has easily as the 5 spot. Doris Fountain, did he do enough to make this a 6-man wide receiver squad, or are we looking at sticking with 5?
Yeah, honestly, I like Fountain. I think he can provide something to the team from a special team standpoint. So Doris Fountain is my WR6 in this situation. I think that they're going to roll with him, and if not, I'd be really surprised because I don't know if he's a guy you're going to put on the practice squad. I think there's going to be other teams out there that would love to pluck him away. So I think he's got to make the roster.
Agreed. So that kicks out Josh Gordon, which I think tonight officially kicked him out for sure.
Corey Coleman, Josh Coleman,
Cornell Powell, and Jaron Ely and Aaron Parker. Aaron Parker had a really good catch today, but I mean, you're not going to do nothing there. So I think we got our 6. Offensive line, I'm not really concerned about anybody. Are we concerned Darian Kennard doesn't make this team? Because I imagine they'll still keep him, even though he wasn't very impressive.
No, I'm not concerned at all about it because obviously right now Lucas Nying is on the PUP list with a knee issue, which he seems to always have that issue anyway. And so obviously Kennard, 5th-round pick, still going to be a guy that's going to make the roster. He just maybe is not as pro-ready as maybe we assumed in the beginning or hoped for. So if something happens to Andrew Wiley, then hopefully he can step in and, as time progresses and gets used to the NFL speed, then, see if he can adapt.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so tight end here, Kelsey Bell. Blake Bell could possibly go in the IR as soon as, yet tomorrow or Monday or even Tuesday. So sounds like he might be out for the year from what I'm hearing. Noah Gray, Jordy Fortson, I feel like are pretty solid locks in this team. So do they keep a essentially 4th tight end of Matt Bushman?
I don't know. And that's a tough one because the guy obviously just got picked up, signed to the team recently, and then goes out and has 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 73 yards and 54-yarder in that mix there. So I don't know because from a pass catching standpoint, we're set. Jody Fortson is awesome. Obviously, Travis Kelce is the best in the business. Noah Gray is a good pass catching guy. If Bushman can provide something from a blocking standpoint, that makes sense for him to make the team. If for some reason he can't do that, then roll with your 3 tight ends you got, and hopefully Noah Gray and even Jody can just develop more into blocking over time.
Yeah, and you can always fill in Michael Burton into that blocking scheme as well.
Right.
A lot more. So, all right. So quarterback, do we keep 3? Did Shane put enough to keep 3 on?
That's a tough call. I mean, we start adding up numbers here, and eventually we're going to be like, well, we're keeping 29 guys on offense, and it's like, well, okay. I mean, if you can fit him into the 53, then yes. But I mean, he's at the bottom 4 guys though that would be in that 53. The last 4 guys or so.
So it sounds like possibly too, like we saw, like I said, after week 10, we saw it happen with Arizona when Murray went down there. Shane Buechele, he's something teams want. And I think, honestly, if you don't keep him, he's going somewhere else. Somebody's going to pick him up. He's not going to just sit on the practice squad. So then you're going to lose out on a guy that knows Andy Reid's offense, that's been with us a couple of years, and who has been effective. So I don't know if you're going to take that chance of letting him go to a different team that might need some depth within quarterback.
Right. Yeah, so I'd rather hold on to him.
Yeah, I'd rather hold on. I'd rather keep him as the 3rd. So running backs here, obviously Clyde's a starter. Who knows with the 2? So between McKinnon and Isaiah, does Jones make it? I honestly think we just keep 3 running backs.
If I'm going to be honest, I think Ronald Jones does make the team, just given the circumstance. And you won't believe it, but I actually think that Jerick McKinnon could be the odd man out of the group just due to age, injury history, those kind of things. There's no real upside to him when you have a 22-year-old Isaiah Pacheco who can do everything just as well as him and doesn't have the injury concerns. So to me, McKinnon just doesn't have a purpose on this roster, and he's not a guy you're ever going to use in goal line situations. That would be more of your Pacheco or Ronald Jones type of guy. But anyways, that's my thought right now is those 3, but McKinnon's actually the odd man out for me.
Interesting. All right. I never even thought about it that way. All right, defense guys. So obviously we know Dunlap, Jones, Frank Clark are for sure locks on this team. Karlaftis isn't going anywhere. Tershawn Warren probably isn't going anywhere. So that leaves Colin Sanders, Derek Nottie, Danny Shelton, Taylor Stallworth, Kendo, and Mike Dana on that defensive line. All those guys can kind of almost rotate and play any spot they need to for the most part, almost all of them. But what are we thinking here? Who's the odd man out?
Well, if I had to pick any of those guys, it'd probably be Kendo, just because in his couple of years here in Kansas City now, I have not seen him do really anything worth of note. In fact, your guy from KU, Kamara, the defensive end there, he's actually made more plays than Kendo has in a short period of time. So Mike Dana for sure has to stay. He does have a vital part of this D line in certain situations, so he's going to make it no matter what. But yeah, like I said earlier, I think Danny Sheldon is going to be a guy that might not make the roster just because the rest of the D tackles have made plays and stood out.
Gotcha. So we end up keeping Noddy and Saunders then.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
Okay. Linebackers. I mean, for the most part, there's nothing mainly to talk about. I think all those guys stay outside of Cochran and Mike Rose.
Mm-hmm.
I think Carter and Darius Harris, who showed up today. Harris had some good plays back to back. So, I think all those guys stay. And of course, we know Chanel and Lee are staying. So I don't think there's no surprise cuts coming in the linebacker spot.
If I had to pick one, I'd probably say Jermaine Carter, just because he's not as familiar with the system as Darius Harris is. And I feel like Carter didn't really prove anything in preseason. So yeah, that's where I would come with that. So,
okay. Corners. Okay. So Fenton, McDuffie, Snead, all set. So then we go in the second depth of that. So we got Jalen Watson, Najee Johnson, I don't think makes it, but Jalen Watson, I think makes it. Joshua Williams, I think ends up making it, and Chris Lemons makes it, and that takes Boodle out. Are you in agreement?
All right. Yeah, all of that. I agree with all that stuff. I mean, I think that one's pretty obvious at this point how that one's going to play out.
Okay. And then safety-wise, we already know Thornhill Reed's going to be the 1-2 punch right there.
Brian
Cook was playing what you said, third safety. You texted me on.
And the three safety packages, he was on the field with them.
That was great to see. And then Deion Bush actually has come alive the last 2 preseason games, so I think he solidified his stuff up. That leaves Devon Key, who got injured at the end of the game there on the 4th down stop, and Zane Anderson. The only way Zane Anderson stays is for special teams, but they might replace that within another position group, maybe like a tight end or something like that. So that one's, I don't know. That one's kind of up in the air. I don't see them keeping Devon Key. We already know he's gone. Yeah, I don't know about Anderson. So
there's a possibility. Andy Reid loves his BYU guys, so
he does.
I could see a situation where he finds a way to keep him on the roster. And the truth is, he's not been he's not been terrible by any means since he's become a Chief. So he was kind of originally, I think, going to be Daniel Sorensen's replacement. And hey, he's a more athletic and younger Daniel Sorensen. If that's the case, then it is what he is. He's the 4th or 5th safety on the roster right now, so that doesn't bother me at all.
All right. Who's your punt returner and kick returners this year? Who do you got? Who do you want?
Without a doubt, kick return is going to be Pacheco, and punt return needs to be Sky Moore.
Sky Moore. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then final question: Do we cut Butker and just keep Justin Reed on the team and save a spot?
It's a tough call, but after they showed the footage today of Butker last week kicking a 74-yard field goal in pregame warmups, I think he was just making sure he proved to the coaching staff that Justin Reed can't do that. So I think that's what Butker was doing.
Saved his spot. Saved his job there.
Exactly. So, that's all it was.
That was a way too early, of course, going cuts here. We'll definitely, that's kind of a good prediction, and we'll go over it after Tuesday's cuts for sure.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get another Settling the Kingdom show going. So, but yeah, I mean, anything else you want to talk about, Mike, tonight?
No, I mean, I'm just glad I'm ready to get it going as far as talking about the Arizona Cardinals coming up in, I think, 17 or 18 days from now. And that's now the focus is we got all this out of our way. Now we can start worrying about what do the Cardinals look like without DeAndre Hopkins, and obviously Christian Kirk is gone. Like what kind of roles Rondale Moore going to play for that team now, and just kind of what they're going to look like going into this game. And obviously the idea is the Chiefs should go out there and start their season there in Arizona and then finish the season in Arizona too, which is where the Super Bowl is going to be played.
Yeah, well, we got a great connection for Arizona Cardinals fans with Redbird Red Zone, so we'll have to reach out there and have a good conversation there. So, cool. Well, preseason is an end for the Chiefs, at least. We still have games this weekend through Sunday. Cuts are Tuesday, by Tuesday by 5 or something like that.
I think it's 3 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday.
3 p.m. That makes sense. So Tuesday by 3 p.m. cuts happen. Keep an eye out, guys. Make sure you subscribe, like, and hit the bell. You'll know when we go live here to talk about some more Chiefs content on this channel. We'll have a lot more this year. Pre-post games, and of course try to get at least an episode or 2 out a week. So
and check us out for the live fantasy draft on Sunday night. So we'll be doing that one for sure too.
Yep, live fantasy draft for sure. It's gonna be fun. So cool, man. Well, Mike, we'll be in contact here, and go Chiefs.
All right, see you guys.